My project's beginning to wind down. I said in a prior video that I was going to replumb the bus and get rid of the butyl pipe, which I've done. I replaced it all with PEX, and I was going to go through the results here. So when I pulled out these tanks, the secondary tanks obviously to the right on a lot of these wide bodies up towards the front. But when I pulled out the tanks, needed to decide whether I was going to do the plumbing or not, because a lot of it runs underneath the wedge that puts the secondary tank up in the air to line up where the two tanks are combined at the bottom. So they're combined at the bottom and they're also combined at the top. So as the tanks fill, it fills through the bottom and or it levels out through the bottom, and if it overflows, it goes from here over to the secondary tank and then drains out through the back. I showed that in a prior video. So I've replaced all of the PEX, or put in all the PEX and replaced all the butyl. These are the drain lines off my Aqua Hot. I did do flex pipe, silicone flex pipe tubing, and the reason I did that is I had to take this tank out, so it worked out perfectly. I'm able to just unscrew the clamps and separate the tank and pull it straight out. This pipe right here, I have a water filter that goes right here, and I fill my bus from the curbside many times because I'm always pulling up to houses and the water's on the curbside. I ordered 2 new tornado flushes, got those installed. I plumbed those together. I only had one on the black tank, so I added a secondary. I'll show you on the other side. So those are the tornado flushes. They're both in. I went through and redid all the piping with the PEX. I labeled it all so I know what is going where. This is all the stuff that goes up into the top. I did spray foam. I got to clean that up. All the areas where I knew mice were getting in this bus, and since I've done that, I haven't had any. I did want to show you this though. This is all of the butyl I pulled out of the bus. So there's a ton of this. It's all out. The stuff is old. There's a history with butyl failing, so I redid that. I redid all my valves, pre-valves. I rebuilt those. This gives you an idea of how many PEX fittings I went through. These are all the PEX fittings. I went through 100 of the 3/4 inch clamps. I've got all new hose that's going in. These are the valves for the debris valves. These are the valves that open and close it, so I'm plumbing those all in with new fittings because they start to wear. These are the new seals that go in the debris valve. I've got an extra one. So if those debris valves start leaking, you can order these. I think they're $15, $20 each. And there's an inlet side and an outlet side on these. And so the inlet is the one that goes towards the tank. The outlet is the one that goes away. And you take a silicone grease and you grease these up really well before you put them in. But the shop is a disaster. I've got stuff everywhere. This is one of 2 whole bus filters. So if I'm filling from the street side using the city water, it also has a filter. But you can see there's just stuff everywhere. On the other side of the bus, let's go over there. I have not washed this bus or done anything to it since I got back from the Lovebirds rally. On the other side of the bus, I added quite a few things. The biggest is the new valves. These are all, this stuff's still kind of thrown in here. These are all rebuilt. I did put a Fernco fitting in here, so if I have to take this stuff apart, I'm not having to cut it all out. I can separate it. I did a new 1.5-inch freshwater dump there. I put a T for my gray water, so if I want to just drain gray water through a garden hose, I can do that. This is the new fitting that goes through the floor for the freshwater hose when it comes up into the coach. I still got a caulk around this. That's obviously the freshwater dump. Stainless steel tray I put in, and it's got the new dump thing or access port. It's hard to get off in the bottom. That's all stainless steel screws on that too. This is my elbow that I use when I'm dumping it, and I like this elbow because it's clear so I can see everything Those will just go straight up underneath. Up top, get rid of all of this wiring. New valves. These are the valves that service the sink that's in my dump bay. I put valves on it because every damn winter that freezes up and breaks. Even if I'm using the bus, there's no way to shut off water to that in the winter, so now I've got it and I can drain it out. This is the line that goes for the secondary tank flush. I put it on top. The front is not even on this black tank. It's got an indentation here. So I, again, Fernco on the waste tank going up to the toilet. And then around each of these you'll see silicone does not stick to high density polyethylene. So the only thing that really does stick to it is the 3M 5200 over in the marine section of Walmart back in Sporting Goods where the boating is. It's about almost 30 bucks a tube with tax. Actually might be a little bit more. But it does stick to this. Sticks to it pretty well. So I did every one of my fittings with that. You'll see I've got a strap around here. That is because I put a piece of plywood behind here. I screwed these to the piece of plywood first, and then I got it 5200 to the front of the tank, and I'm holding it there. It takes days for this stuff to set up. So that is why that is in there. The rest of this, again, the whole entire bay was redone. All this wiring's getting redone. My Sporlan valve did not work because my switch was bad, so I've got that working now. I realized I had an issue with that when I was at the Lovebirds rally. Down here is where the tank water comes out. Now, in a prior video I talked about putting that up top. I did try to put it up top. I ran it over the top of the tank. The problem was I would get an air gap in there and I could not purge the system. So I'm going to use a flex tube here, so if I ever have to remove the tank, all I have to do is unscrew these. And so I'll just have a piece of hose that goes right here to tie them together, and I can still pull out the freshwater tank. Underneath the kitchen sink, this is where I redid all of the PEX under here. I also mounted it to the wall so it's not flopping around anymore, but it was hard because I had to run this stuff through the chases along the side of the bus. I also did the bathroom. This is what probably took the longest, but it's all redone, all new valves. So gives you an idea what the inside looks like. Back on the curbside, my coach is different because most have the Aqua Hot on the street side. I've got a new 600D in mine, but it was from the factory put on the curbside. But I wanted to go into this. This is still a mess in here because I don't have anything installed. My Aqua Hot panel, if you guys have seen some of the prior videos, sits right here on the front. There's a big cover that goes over this. But I want to get into the secondary tank. A lot of people don't even realize these are in here. They're about 30 gallons, and they are connected again parallel to the primary tank. They go through the bulkhead or the wall. Same thing up top. This is where my bus, when you turn on the city water and you have your Sporlan valve activated to fill the tanks, it fills actually through the secondary tank first and then overflows into the first tank. And so there is a bunch of tubing, if you can see back in there, that goes underneath this. So the hot water comes straight in, but the cold water for the bus, it goes across to the back, but it also tees and comes up into the top of my Aqua Hot. So this is where the cold water comes into the Aqua Hot. This is where the hot water goes out. There's the Sporlan valve. It's working fine. This stuff all gets mounted up here when it's done. It's a mess in here. So this has been a huge project. I'm so glad that I'm done with this because it was a lot of work. I don't want to say it was necessarily overly difficult, but it was just time consuming. But everything has tested out and is not leaking. And with the the whole bay being sprayed now with a bed liner, hopefully it'll keep out the rust issues that had happened before from the leaks. And the new wedges, they are obviously not going to rot or collapse. They're aluminum and Trex deck posts. But I'll do a little bit of cleanup and then I'll do a final video. But this is where I'm at so far.